Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 2. Hello, welcome back to part 2 of the podcast, where we're talking prequels. As you probably already know, this is where I have a look at your Instagram responses from the previous episode. And that previous episode was with Matt from the Matt and Mark movie show. And we were talking Joaquin Phoenix films, relating that to Napoleon, his new movie, another Ridley Scott film. And the movie boners, Dustin, now a regular responder, and he went with Joker, probably. Spoil My Movie went with Still Here, which I haven't actually heard of, so it would be cool to check that one out. Claire from Why the Flick went with Signs. That is definitely a favourite of mine. I really like that one. Anton Kinelov, again, another regular responder, went with Joker. And Jeff from the Love of Cinema podcast went with my choice, The Master. Leigh, I'm curious, what Joaquin Phoenix film is your favourite?
Look, I'm not going to be one of those people that say Joker.
Right. Good.
I think for me, it's Gladiator.
Yeah, I do love Gladiator.
Gladiator would have to be my favourite. As a villain, a villain is someone you just want to walk up and just smash them in the mouth, and you want to do that for the entire movie.
Definitely. Right, Leigh, we're talking prequels, so what is your prequel film of choice, sir?
My pick is X-Men First Class. As we spoke before we started recording, this was not meant to be a Michael Fassbender session. Because, when you asked me, I was trying to think of a prequel movie that I haven't seen in a very long time, which was this and Temple of Doom. But I'm glad we went with this because I think it's been longer since I've seen this than watching Temple of Doom. The last time I saw this film was, I think I watched it probably once since it first came out.
Right.
How about yourself?
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. I've got it on DVD only. I don't have it on Blu-ray. I enjoyed it a lot when it came out. 2011. Prometheus was 2012, so very close to each other. I think, watching it for this, I feel like I have a few more problems with it, but there's some really great scenes here, and there's some kind of bit naff ones, but I think if I were to do an X-Men ranking, I don't think it would make my top 3. I don't think.
What would be your top 3 be?
My top 3 would, if we're excluding the solo Wolverine ones, I'd probably go
so that's half.
Probably the original X-Men from Bryan Singer, then X-Men Days of Future Past, and then X-Men 2. X-Men 2 is fucking awesome for me. I love that film. I remember as a kid, I got it on DVD. I literally watched it all the way through, and then I literally put the special features disc in straight after and watched the audio commentary. It's that good. I think it really doesn't get talked about enough in terms of great superhero sequels.
No, I don't think it does. But it's interesting because it's the same when I think of when someone goes, what's a great superhero film? I think, Spider-Man 2, X-Men 2. That's usually the order I go into.
Right.
Definitely not X-Men 3.
No, definitely not. But I mean, the best X-Men film period is Logan for me. I think that one is frankly a masterpiece. It really is. A great send-off for Wolverine, even though we are going to see him again in Deadpool 3, but there we go.
Actually, I did. It's funny. I did see a meme the other day that was because apparently Daphne Keane is meant to come back for Deadpool 3.
Cool.
And there was a picture of her looking at Logan, and it was Logan's head on Thanos' body. It's like, I don't know who the hell you are.
That's great. Were there any other films in contention for you?
Well, another one I thought was Rogue One. That was actually another one I thought of. I definitely didn't want to touch any of the earlier prequels. I feel like that's always discussed. But yeah, that was probably just down to my three that top pick I thought of prequels to watch. That came to mind that I really enjoy. Like until you mentioned Prometheus, even I forgot about that too.
Right. So what happens in X-Men First Class, Leigh?
So as IMDb says, in the 1960s, a superpowered humans Charles Xavier and Eric Lencher work together to find others like them. But Eric's vengeful pursuit of ambitious mutant who ruined his life causes a scheme to divide them. I feel like it's a bit vague on the plot of the film.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's Eric's fault. I don't think it becomes Eric's fault until about 3 quarters through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is definitely Michael Fassbender's movie for me. I mean, it's more of a like prequel to like the Magneto character than any of the others, frankly. Certainly not like Charles Xavier, because he's not in like a wheelchair yet. He's not bald, and you don't even really get that in like Days of Future Past either with Charles Xavier. You don't get
not until Apocalypse.
Yeah, unfortunately, with that film.
Well, it's interesting you do say that it does feel more like Magneto's movie, because originally this entire movie was meant to be X-Men Origins Magneto.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was what this was originally meant to. It was meant to continue that trend after Wolverine, but due to the poor reception of the Wolverine movie, that this got morphed into X-Men First Class altogether. So a lot of that original script they had planned was bled into this.
You know what? I feel like I would have preferred that, if I'm honest. Like, again, I feel like this film, as we're doing like initial reactions, like I feel like, again, there's too many characters here. And I feel like if they stripped away some of these characters, like the tornado dude, I'm like, why is he here? I'm like, he doesn't have a single line.
He says nothing. I never noticed that until I went back. I was like, he says nothing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
No.
Why is he here?
Yeah, like you're just another character with powers that...
Yeah, a poor man's Storm. That's who he is.
Yeah. And no, he's always wearing a fancy suit.
Yeah.
But it probably has one of the most boringest powers that gets displayed in this.
Definitely. So, initial reactions for you, Leigh? Did you like this the first time you saw it?
I did. I liked the first time I saw it because I liked the 60s vibes that we got from it. I do like it. It was a bit more after obviously X-Men Origins. I found it very much. It was that more like gritty, like X-Men 1 and 2 was. And I think one of the things they nailed the best was having James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender as the infamous characters, because like you could see them morphing into Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen.
Yeah, definitely.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the film the first time I saw it. Like, again, like the 60s vibes were really kind of cool, and the the James Bond influences were definitely there for me, like the secret like submarine, like the way like Michael Fassbender's dressed, sometimes you feel like he could be like a James Bond from the 60s. That was really cool to see. So let's get into it then, like with directing. Out of the two like introduction scenes for Eric and Charles as kids, like the better one by far is Eric's, I think. Like, I love how the scene is constructed where Kevin Bacon, who plays Sebastian Shaw, who is kind of like a Nazi scientist man at this point, like, and he brings Eric up to his office after he sees Eric like bend the gates. And so he tries to like get Eric to move the coin, doesn't work, then like says, the one thing I can say for the Nazis is their methods seem to produce results. Then you have this like brilliant cut to reveal the other side of the room, and there's like a glass wall, and you can see all these like laboratory equipment, like lots of knives, in this other room, which was great. Then after like Shaw shoots Eric's mother, Eric is able to like use his powers. And I like how the scene shows off Eric's immense power, but he can't really control it properly. But when he crushes the guard's helmet, that was some really like gnarly horror movie stuff right there. That was good.
It's like you're waiting for the blood to go down.
Yeah. He's like, quick, cut quickly.
Yeah, quickly.
Can't see that.
Yeah. Well, even his mum dies very quickly.
Yeah.
Because you do forget almost how powerful Magneto actually is.
Yeah.
Compared to the other X-Men.
He is super powerful, isn't he? Arguably the most, other than Apocalypse, like he's arguably the most powerful mutant. Would you agree with that? Or
he is, just because the unique ability of his power, even though it's not the best representation, gets shown really well in Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Just how powerful he can really be. But one of the things I did like about this film is I did like how they kept that scene from the first X-Men.
Yeah.
Like that same, the gate folding, that they kept that.
Because it's quite brief in the original film, so I kind of like how they expand on that.
No, I think after they clock this poor kid on the head at the end of a gun, that's when it kicks off into First Class. So I think that was a good homage to the very first one. But you do understand between him and Charles, which there is a later line down the track where Magneto does say to Charles, like, "Oh, however did you survive, Charles?"
Yeah.
In this massive house. But yeah, we're introduced to one of the most powerful mutants and a new villain very quickly. And you already hate him.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's a Nazi, so.
Oh, yeah. That's already killed
his mum.
Eric's mum.
I quite like the attack on the mutant compound by Shaw, Azazel, and the tornado guy. I don't actually know what his mutant name is, but.
Tornado. Man 1.
Yeah. I quite liked how they just like hear Azazel for a bit, and then he's just dropping people out of the sky, which was kind of funny. There's some like great handheld stuff in there in the build up to create some decent suspense, which I thought was good. But I think the standout for me is definitely Azazel in the scene. Like, there's some nice, like slick hand to hand takedowns with these massive knives that he has was pretty cool. But I loved how he's got like one goon by the tail and he's moving him from side to side while another goon is trying to like shoot him.
Still shoots him.
Yeah, he shoots his own fellow goon by mistake. That was kind of funny. That was great. I felt like that was a highlight of the whole film, frankly. Like, Shaw brings some cool spectacle, but it's all from like all the style comes from like Kevin Bacon's acting. You know, the tornado guy is just really boring as well in that scene.
You're so helpful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I brought you along.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shaw's powers, it's more about his acting.
Yeah.
Because he just absorbs energy.
Kind of a great creative. I don't know whether he comes from the comics, but it's just a great idea for his power.
Yeah, and like it makes sense with everything going on that would be his power, especially for how long he could live.
Yeah. Makes sense for the story.
Yeah. But like even the stairs blowing up, he just stamps his foot down and just creates that chain reaction that goes around, which I think is one of the best action pieces he's just seeing there. But you're right, with Azazel, such a unique ability, how it leaves that red mist after. But the FBI agent that helps them, he doesn't last very long. I forgot how. I was like, oh, that's right, you died very quickly.
Yeah. That was kind of funny how he dies. Yeah. I don't think he does anything particularly as epic as Nightcrawler in the beginning of X-Men 2. I mean, that whole opening scene in that film is so epic. So good.
And the music, tension.
But he's still great.
The weird thing is that in the comics, I'm pretty sure he sleeps with Mystique.
Right.
And that's how Nightcrawler's mum is Mystique.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I'm like, that's a rough few years.
Yeah. I think the final action scene for me is quite hit and miss. Like, the crash on the beach was still pretty good, but like the effects work with that looked a little dated now. But of course, no one has like a scratch on them. But I love how they leave the take in where James McAvoy bangs his head on the window during his dialogue. Like, they even keep the doink sound effect in there. So funny. I like the mirroring effect on Shaw when he's absorbing the radiation. That was cool. I didn't really like the Zoe Kravitz Fly Lady versus Banshee action. It just looked a tad goofy. Like, you can clearly tell they're on wires. I'm not sure why they went with like a handheld shaky style with that. It made it look worse for me. Yeah. And then when Banshee carries Havoc in midair, it just didn't look good at all. There's just no way they'll be able to glide right now. Like, the best matchup by far was like Azazel versus Beast. Again, like some really slick action, and I just wanted more of them. I feel like you had some good stuff with them, and then you have everyone else, and then back to Azazel and Beast to end the scene before we get into the next kind of like segment on the island. So yeah, I definitely would have preferred more Beast versus Azazel for me.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and it's interesting you do mention about the how they land on the beach, because you got one scene where still the CGI holds up where Eric is holding the sub, out of the water, and the next frame is when the submarine and the airplane is crashing on the beach. Like that, I actually looked. I was like, "Ooh, that doesn't hold up too well anymore, does it?"
Yeah. But to be fair, I loved the kind of double take that Nicholas Hoult does as Beast when he's like trying to fly the ship and then looks outside and sees a giant submarine floating in midair. He's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, I know.
That was great.
Shit. Even I think Nicholas Hoult, he did so good as Beast when he actually does turn into Beast.
Hey, I'm James Lovino, and I'm here to tell you about Alternate Sides, a movie podcast with a twist. I've worked in the film business for 2 decades, but I haven't actually seen that many movies, and this has been driving my frequent collaborator, Sam, a self-confessed film snob, crazy. So every week, while he's stuck in his car trying to avoid getting a parking ticket, thanks to New York City's alternate side parking regulations, we discuss a classic film I've finally just gotten around to seeing. Alternate Sides, a new podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship, wherever you get your podcasts.
I love that moment where he's kind of like strangling Magneto before they go out on the mission. Don't mock me.
And he wasn't. He wasn't. But like, you know, like he just, that brief moment, had a moment to kill one of the most powerful mutants right there, which you would do for nearly the majority of your life.
Yeah.
Or for the next 3 or 4 movies you're going to be.
But I think by far my favorite moment in the last scene is where like Charles has frozen Shaw. And Magneto puts the iconic helmet on for the first time, and he floats the Nazi coin towards Shaw's head. And there's this amazing like cross-cutting moment where we track the coin as it's going through Shaw's head. Some kind of great gnarly horror movie type stuff there, but at the same time, like the tracking shot is matched up with Charles's head, but he's screaming in pain because he's trying to keep him frozen. Plus, it's just a great dynamic because like Charles has frozen Shaw to protect Eric, but obviously he doesn't want him to kill Shaw, and he can't talk to Eric because he's got Shaw's helmet on. So it's just a great between a rock and a hard place moment for Charles. You know, what is he going to do? For such a powerful mutant, he is powerless, you know, because he wants to protect his friend, yet trying to stop him at the same time. It's a great moment. Yeah,
it is such cut, so good, and that's one of those moments you see the true Eric.
Absolutely, yeah. I love the music in this as well. I think the music has a great like guitar soundtrack. It's so epic. It's definitely one of my favorite film scores for a superhero film.
I still listen to the theme now, either when I'm like writing or if I'm just doing, I've got something in the background. I still listen to that theme because I think it's just such a good build-up theme. And as the film goes on, you hear at the very start, which I think is really good, you hear very small snippets of it. And then when they fully form, you hear the full theme. Like, you know, here's the X-Men.
Yeah, that's cool. Favorite shot or scene for you, Lee? What are you going for?
Submarine always does get me, but when I think of it, or the scene where you see him all in the suits for the first time, the 60 suits, I do like that. Another scene would have to be when Magneto holds all of the missiles.
Ah, yeah, that is so good.
I think that's another great showing how powerful he is, and as he turns them around and sends them back. I think that's another one of my favorite scenes. But yeah, there's a lot of moments in this film that are just smaller tidbits. And probably difference compared to like Prometheus is that obviously this film is a lot more connected and leads a lot more into that first X-Men.
Yeah, definitely. It works better as a prequel than Prometheus does.
Yeah.
Whereas Prometheus is trying to be its own thing and a prequel to Alien in the same movie.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is trying to be a direct sequel, but again, leaving plot stuff and story stuff for extra sequels,
leaving room for another 3 movies,
which are. Well, one of them is very good. Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
I kind of loved how we get the iconic Michael Fassbender meme with Mystique. What does he say? He's like...
The real Raven.
No, I prefer the real Raven. No, the real Raven. Perfection. And I've since that film came out, I've seen so many of those amazing memes.
Still gets used today.
Yeah.
And that's where we get the small cameo from, I forgot her name, but she was the original Mystique.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The dirty lady from Friends.
Yeah.
I always find that funny.
Yeah. Maybe when he says maybe a little bit older, she's there. And all that entire movie, that meme is just so good.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, chef's kiss.
For memes. But I think the one meme I see the most is probably Calvin Candy from Django Unchained. You know, the one from Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, that would have to be the second one.
Yeah.
Or ever since Once Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, the pointing,
with Leonardo DiCaprio sitting on a chair, like, the pointing.
I'm on TV!
Yeah, that's probably the second one I see all the time. Out of the entire movie, Eric's the one who supports Mystique the most.
Absolutely, yeah. For me, my favourite shot or scene definitely involves the great Michael Fassbender. Like, I love the 2 scenes with him where he pulls out, like, the metal filling from the banker in Switzerland, and you have this amazing shot from the inside of the guy's mouth as Eric pulls out the metal filling with his powers. But the scene... in the Argentinian bar is fantastic, where he purposely orders a German beer and calls them out brilliant by saying, "My parents were from Dusseldorf." And one of them says, what was their name? They didn't have a name. It was taken from them by pig farmers and tailors. And he taps their drinks as he says it. Then you have this amazing, very simple tilt down shot where Fassbender reveals his tattoo that he got from the concentration camp. Then he stops the Nazi quickly and takes the knife away. Again, amazing use of a POV shot, the man drawing his gun, but it's like you're in a first person shooter and the shot moves to the other Nazi and shoots him. Then I love how slick Michael Fassbender throws the knife into the barman and then brings it back to his hand, all in kind of one motion, it feels like. So slick. It's amazing. But I think the best part of both scenes is the music. It's so epic for me. I love that scene in particular. So good.
It's very intense. And like that's and like as you mentioned before, like that, even besides the moving the gun and the knife going back and forth, very James Bond-esque.
Yes, yeah. I think just because of the slickness of it and just again the costuming, the design of this whole kind of world, the 60s setting, so James Bond-esque. If you just like take out like some of the uses of his powers in the scene, you're like, yeah, this could easily be in a Bond movie.
Yeah.
Easily.
Straight away.
So directing score for me, I think it's pretty good, you know, from Matthew Vaughn. That's the one who directed this. Pretty good stab at it, at an X-Men film. Pardon the pun, sort of. Even though it doesn't really have Wolverine in it for that one scene. I mean, there is a pet hate here. I really don't like split screen stuff, but I think it's passable for me. That kind of style irritates me a little bit.
You talking about the training?
Yeah. So I'll go like a 7.8, I think. Yeah, 7.8.
Yeah. I think Matthew Vaughn, he did it. I feel like he did a really good job in this film. This is one of the films that wasn't under too much weight, like what you do see with the MCU right now, and you can see the Kingsman, in this. Even Argyle, it's been coming out in Feb.
Yeah, Argyle.
Which I think he does a really good job. I can't say that I didn't mind the split screen. I can't tell you another movie I remember someone doing that. I'll probably give it a 7.5.
Oh, okay, sure. Cool. Final answer?
Yeah, final answer. Lock that in.
Cool. Locked in. 7.5 for Leigh. Right, screenplay then. I did like how Shaw's plan kind of revolves around like real history, around like the Cuban Missile Crisis. I think the balance is kind of really well done there with actually focusing on like real events, and you do have some like real footage in there sometimes. Yeah, I do like the idea of the fact that he's trying to manipulate like the Russian and American generals. That's kind of a cool idea, basing it on real history.
And that's the thing, is that it's because they've done that, it's not the realm, it's not like Apocalypse, which I think that this film weighs so much a lot better than, but it's not, same thing, it's not Days of Future Past, it's not the worlds, it's a very real threat of what could have happened. And the X-Men do sneak in there. And like, as pretty sure Eric does say it, he's like, the entire world's going to know us tomorrow.
Yeah. It's a great moment in history to focus on in this, early 60s, because, America and Russia were like, the nuclear tensions between those two countries was really at a really high point at that time. I feel like it's just a great way to build a story around that piece of history, to reveal the X-Men, to reveal these characters for the first time. Yeah, for them to like save the day and to see how humans react to humans in such a time where tensions were so high. And of course, Eric is right in the end and not Charles. I mean, this film is, as we kind of said, Magneto's movie, really. I mean, they try and dress it up that it is kind of Charles and Eric's film, but really it's Eric's. And I think Days of Future Past is more Charles's film. Because obviously in that film, they do some more interesting stuff with the fact that at the beginning of that, you have that amazing connection between both, Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy, where they're connecting, Charles. Their minds are connected in that film, which is kind of a really cool scene. And also in that, like, he's rejected his powers. He just wants to walk again. So there's kind of a lot of like depression and self-loathing aspects to his character in Days of Future Past. And Eric doesn't have as big a role in Future Past. I know there's way more characters as well in that film, but I feel like that's kind of done in a lot better way than in this one. Like here, they definitely could have shaved a few characters. As we said.
Tornado Man.
The tornado guy. Why are you here? No.
Twister Man, if it's in America, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters that are just to the fore that, I really like Tornado Man. I'm really disappointed. And it's funny because you do mention in Days of Future Past, like a core of these characters are dead.
Yeah, they are.
Which Jennifer Lawrence finds out in the movie. First class would be Magneto's. Days of Future Past, Charles. X-Men Apocalypse is
no one's really.
No one's really. More Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, poor guy. Clamped into a ridiculous suit.
Yeah, I know. Many different ways they could have done that. But I do, I would agree that it's a hard thing which I always loved about the X-Men, is that you understand Charles. And you want to, like, as a kid, you're like, no, Charles, he's doing the right, they're doing good. But then you're like, Eric makes more sense.
He understands the world more than Charles does. You feel like Eric is more traveled. He knows about like the real human condition. He knows what humans are capable of. I mean, he spent pretty much most of his childhood in a concentration camp. He knows how evil humans can be, whereas Charles has never really seen that. He always wants to see like the good in people. He feels like he can fix everyone, humans or mutants. And I kind of like how they play on that, you know. In some senses, he could be seen as kind of naive. Like, no, why are you trying to fix everyone? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's not going to work.
He's such a powerful mutant that there's a bit of a god complex going on with his character, which is really interesting, and they don't fully explore, I don't think. But yeah, I feel like we definitely relate to Eric a little bit more than Charles,
especially in this film. And one of the scenes that I did like that makes you really feel is when at the compound we're getting attacked, right before Shaw walks in, you hear one of the guards say, "They're in there, take them, leave us normal humans alone." And he still dies. And you feel, all right, yeah, there's still that really big gap, which is still through all the X-Men films going forward, X-Men 1, 2, and 3, like even though 3 is not the best, with the Cure, that starts the conversation even further about the Great Divide, which is one of the strongest suits about the X-Men. And you're like, no, Eric makes sense. Kill him.
Yeah, that is always a great running theme in the X-Men films. And hopefully, you know, the MCU will riff on that in their own particular way. We'll have to wait and see.
There's so many theories going around how the X-Men are going to come into the MCU. However, which I know a lot of people are hating on the MCU at the moment, with given good reason, but I feel that Kevin Feige will take extra care with them coming into this universe, because he's just as much as a fan as we are.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he's going to want them to come in right.
Because a lot of these characters are seriously beloved characters, you know, the X-Men. They've just got great stories behind them, like the simple idea of mutants are different. The difference between mutants and humans has been a kind of a universal one from the first movie. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But I think in this film, where the film struggles a little bit, is that in the first half of the film, it has to juggle so many characters and storylines before it gets into the main plot. Like, you have Charles and Eric's story to begin with, where Eric's scenes are so good compared to Charles's scenes in Oxford, where he's just basically drinking and talking about the mutant gene.
Try to pick up chicks.
Yeah. And it's like a tad boring, and Jennifer Lawrence overshadows James McAvoy a tad. Then you have like Sebastian Shaw, the main villain, manipulating one of the generals with the missile crisis, and the CIA's involvement is in that too. Then Charles and Eric recruit all like the mutant kids, and you have slightly clunky scenes showing off their powers. Then like the scene with all the kids partying it up felt a tad cringe and forced. So I think all these scenes with Charles and Eric together are great.
We'll call you Professor X. We'll call you Magneto. I'll be Mystique.
Yeah, that was a bit like, I think it needs a rewrite there, people.
Yeah.
But everyone else feels a bit like one note, really. And I just feel it could have been a bit more streamlined in the first hour, so we could get into the main story a lot quicker. Yeah, so I think for me, I kind of wrote this in my Letterboxd review as well, which you can see there or on the Instagram next week, where I kind of said like the second half of this film is a lot better than the first for me, but the first half has the better scenes, the best scenes with Fassbender.
I can see what you mean. Like I'd say it's slow, but you're right. It's like the main story takes a bit to kick into, like giving a little bit more push to get over that line. It's like, all right, you've met Eric, you've met Charles, making the first X-Men, you see team bonding. All right, here's the split. Let's go.
Again, it's just a lot. There's a lot of storylines that they got to kind of cram into this story before we really get into the nitty gritty. And again, I feel like if we just focused on like Charles and Eric and have a few like younger guys come into the team, like, I mean, let's be honest, Banshee is a bit naff. He can do sonar and fly. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool.
He's gone by the next movie.
Yeah, because they realize he's naff.
Yeah. Darwin is useless.
Yeah, that felt like a really kind of boring idea that, he can adapt. I'm like, it didn't feel particularly very creative with that character, Darwin. But I did kind of like that they were taking characters off the board, that they did actually kill him. Yes, it's a bit of a stereotype that you're killing the only black guy. So that's not great.
I did notice that it could just be me. He's like, when Shaw's talking to them, he's like, we don't want to be slaves. And the camera pans to Darwin. I'm like,
yeah. And then you kill him.
And then you kill him. Like, that could not be any more obvious.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
Yeah. And like, no one was asking for Angel to come back. So yeah, they could have maybe not had as many characters. Like, it's still very close.
Yeah. Like,
you could have still just had Mystique, Beast, and Havoc.
Yeah, just keep it at that.
By the way, I have a brother.
I love the relationship between Charles and Eric, like especially before the final act, because you have this debate between Charles and Eric playing chess, and they're discussing how the rest of the world will perceive them when they can see what they can do. Like, Charles is of the opinion that when they see the X-Men, the humans, like, stop Shaw and prevent World War III, they'll, accept mutants. But Eric's like, no, I've been here from the start to get a chance to kill Shaw, and that when the dust settles, we're going to have to go on the offensive because humans will always fear what they don't understand. So I love how the film puts some extra tension for what happens after they defeat Shaw, because we pretty much know that they're going to stop Shaw, right? Like, that's kind of always on the cards for superhero films. But the intrigue is what will happen after the battle, which feels pretty unique to me. So I really kind of like that idea there, that there's some real tension beyond defeating the main villain. Like, you don't really see that very often in superhero films. So that was really great to see.
Well, there's something further, like, not saying, there's another big baddie, but the fact that the dust settles and it's not peaceful.
Yeah, will, Charles or Eric, like, shake hands and believe in the X-Men, or will Eric kind of go on a separate way? But again, there is the kind of frustrating thing of the fact that this is a prequel. We know what happens.
Yeah.
But I guess the film is like, is it going to happen in this movie, or are we going to see it in the next one? So there is that, but I like the idea of what they were going for. And also, like, it's kind of echoed with Hank and Mystique's relationship before the final battle, because Beast is like, I've made a cure for your mutant gene. Like, you can stay as Jennifer Lawrence if you want, take this. And she's like, no, I want to be my natural blue form, thanks. And obviously Beast is like, oh, what? I did not expect that. Because obviously he's got kind of a very aesthetically ugly mutant gene.
Yeah, and he gets ripped on every 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. He gets taken the piss out of from mainly Havoc. Yeah. But again, like, you have the kind of tension of how they're going to be perceived with those two characters in a more personal way, which I found was great in the storytelling.
Yeah, and it serves, like, that weird love triangle does serve and keep going for the next few movies too. And when he does, I think they the costume and the makeup, and they did it very well with Beast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You could go, I can definitely see how you turn into Kelsey Grammer in X-Men 3.
Yeah. Favorite lines for you, Leigh? What have you got?
Well, actually, it's a scene that you just talked about when they're having the chess game. It's like, we have to be the better man. And he's like, we already are.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's
that's a good one.
Powerful line, because they are, because it's the next stage of human evolution. And look, because it's Hugh Jackman, just that cameo scene. Hi, I'm Charles.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Eric Lynch. Go fuck yourself.
That is such a good line.
You're like, that's the character summed up.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that's your character right there.
Yeah. I like, I cannot take you anywhere else without permission from upstairs. Would you like to see one more magic trick? Okay, get in the car. Good idea. Near the beginning, that was good. The CIA guy. They're setting up Charles in Cerebro, and Hank says,
Oh, yeah.
"Are you sure we can't shave your head? Don't touch my hair." It's kind of a great callback.
Yeah.
I do kind of like Shaw, and you can tell like Kevin Bacon is having a good time, and I do like the way Darwin dies. I mean, Darwin is kind of a bit of a shitty character anyway, and I love it when he says, "Adapt to this," and he puts a load of like energy in his mouth. That was great.
And then,
boom! Bless him. He tries to adapt to it, but there's just no hope there.
Yeah, because he turns into malt, but that's that doesn't last very long.
No. I like the bit where like they're on top of the dish during the training montage where Banshee is trying to like fly for the first time, and Charles is like, "You truly believe..." Oh no, Banshee says, "You truly believe I can fly this time?" "Unreservedly. I trust you. I'm touched." "I don't trust him," points to Hank. "Say nothing."
Yeah.
That was great. "If you're in there, I'd like you to know that I agree with every word you said. We are the future."
Yes.
"But unfortunately, you killed my mother." That's a great one. Great one from Michael Fassbender. I mean, right at the very end, when you see Michael Fassbender in the iconic Magneto suit, and January Jones says, "Eric, I believe." And there's like a really great long pause before Fassbender says, "I prefer Magneto."
That's probably one of my only little gripes about this movie is just never
really?
liked his suit.
Oh, okay.
Never liked the suit. And that's probably one of the good things about X-Men Apocalypse. I thought his suit looked so much better in that
Right.
than it does, because he's got like the prong on top of his helmet. I'm like, he never has the prong. Like what? Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely prefer just the normal chrome silvery one. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, or even in X-Men.
Yeah.
His suit in that wasn't...
Just a bit of drape of black material.
60s.
Yeah.
60s vibe to Magneto.
Yeah. I think my favorite line is from Michael Fassbender, of course, after he's killed... no, I think just before he kills the two Nazis, and he says,
Frankenstein's monster.
"Yeah, let's just say I'm Frankenstein's monster, and I'm looking for my creator." I mean, I'm a big fan of Frankenstein movies, so I was like, hell yeah, that is awesome. It fits so well.
It does, and again, it just still sets him on that path.
Screenplay score for me, again, I think there's a lot of frustrations here. Again, I'm probably beating this point down to the ground, but there's just too many characters. There's too much going on. I feel like it definitely could have been streamlined a lot more, but I do really enjoy like the Eric and Charles relationship and the 60s setting, even though it kind of feels a little bit goofy at times with that setting. But yeah, so I'll give it like a 7.6 for me.
Yes, there's a little bit too many characters, but I still think they set up everything very well. You know, if we didn't get another X-Men film in this universe, I think they definitely accomplished their mission. So I'll give it an 8.1.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like I feel like they hit all the main points.
Yeah.
For you to go, okay, this is how the Brotherhood and the X-Men are made. This is the first fight. This is how this all starts.
Yeah. Right. Acting then. I think Kevin Bacon is definitely a standout here as Shaw, the main villain. Like, I quite like the scene where Bacon meets like the young mutants, not new mutants, that's different. And he's doing his speech about like the coming revolution. He's asking like who will join him. And I liked how subtly he changes his attention to Zoe Kravitz, the Fly Lady. I don't know in mutant name.
And everyone you pick in that scene, you pick the Hey, she redeemed herself in her next superhero movie.
Yes, definitely. I really hate her costume, though. I'm like, her mask just covers her nose. That's it. I'm like, we know who you are.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We get it.
Different movie for a different time.
Yeah.
But Zoe is just great where you already know that she's going to like join Shaw before Shaw puts his hand out. That was like a cool moment for me. I think, you know, I am a fan of Zoe Kravitz as an actress. I feel like, unfortunately, she is definitely a character that I would have probably cut out. I'm like, not great. As I agree with you, like, really, that's the character that you're picking, Shaw? the girl that can fly? Yes, she can vomit, fire bombs. But, I mean, surely Havoc's right there, man. Right there.
All right, maybe I'll pick the guy that can do laser beams.
I love the acting from Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy at the end of the training montage scene. Probably one of my favorite scenes in the film, actually.
Oh, with the dish?
Yeah, when Charles asks to enter Eric's mind, and he says the true point of focus lies between rage and serenity. So Charles does this like mind thing, and pretty quickly they're both acting their asses off, and they've got tears running down their cheek. And I really love the little effects too, where we see little glimpses of his mother in candlelight. So the film gives a glimpse of what they're both seeing, but it keeps focus on their performances, which I thought was a really clever thing to do there. Definitely one of the most touching, heartfelt moments in the film, and it all comes from the acting. Yes, you have some effects work there, but that's not the main focus. So yeah, I really like that. I thought it was really well done from Matthew Vaughn and the actors. Some really great acting in this, actually.
To me, it's James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. They're both the MVPs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of this movie. And then third being Shaw. Fourth, for me, would be Jennifer Lawrence.
I feel like as well in these films, because obviously Jennifer Lawrence, when she was cast as Mystique, they didn't really realize what they had. Because obviously moving forward after First Class, like Jennifer Lawrence becomes a massive movie star, like with like the Hunger Games films as well, basically coming out in conjunction.
Which I think is the same year or year after.
I think it was the year after Hunger Games, the first one.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 2012.
Yeah. So this was her first big role, and like obviously Mystique isn't like a huge, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like Mystique is not a massively popular ex-woman.
No, well,
so they were like, yeah, we gotta
give her something.
Yeah, we gotta put her in like as top billing for the next films and try and figure out how we make Mystique like a bigger character, because we've cast her with Jennifer Lawrence, so that was kind of interesting that they didn't really know who they had on their hands.
No, and you can tell the difference between Days of Future Past.
Yeah. She's definitely has a huge involvement in that.
Yeah,
so
it's literally the hunt for Mystique.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at like the original films with Mystique, like I mean, she dies like before the halfway point in the third one, and she's a great villain. I mean, that's the thing, she's like a sidekick villain in the first two original films.
She's a right-hand man. That's to Magneto, that's it.
So she's not like a hugely important character, but saying all that, I kind of liked how they've made her more of an important character, frankly. But it's just interesting how they create Mystique as a more important character, whereas on paper, from the comics, she's really not.
Yeah, not that popular.
No.
She is now.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Mystique is now.
Yeah, just because of Jennifer Lawrence, pretty much. I love the moment from Michael Fassbender near the end on the beach where he's holding all these missiles in midair, as you said, Leigh, earlier. And Charles says to him, they're just following orders. And then Eric says, I've been at the mercy of men just following orders. Never again. He's pretty angry in that moment, and you can see the pain in his face anyway. But when he hears that they're just following orders, you see his eyes drop slightly, and I really wish, and he's like, I really wish you didn't say that, because I think in that moment, he still wants to be friends with Charles on his side, And even before he says that, you can see him thinking about what to do with these missiles. Do I just put them in the water, or do I turn them around and try and kill the humans? So Charles makes his mind up for him when he says that. But then that's not even the most powerful and painful moment for Eric. It's when like Charles rejects to go with him against the humans after he's been shot. Like the disappointment and pain is amazing from Fassbender. Again, my favorite performance by far is Michael Fassbender.
Yeah. And he says, we were brothers, we were meant to do this together. We're meant to do all this. And in Days of Future Past, you still feel that weight when between Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, when we spent all these years of fighting and we shouldn't have.
I feel like James McAvoy is really good in the film, but I do feel like Fassbender is better. But like McAvoy is definitely the standout in Days of Future Past compared to Fassbender in that film. But I just really like the fact that like the best acting moments are at the end in really pivotal scenes. I think it's just really well directed and really well acted from both of those guys. And they're heads and shoulders above the rest. I'm like, Kevin Bacon is like having a great time as a villain.
Being a villain.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is that you've taken a role, which would be hard, is like you're taking a role of two of one of the most pivotal characters in X-Men. And not only is it two pivotal roles, but you're also taking two roles who have been played so well by two outstanding actors, and which have received praise of their own. Yet you have to bring something new to that role, which I think they both do very well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And certainly I think the standouts of the younger actors are Jennifer Lawrence and Nicholas Hoult. Like Nicholas Hoult, I think, as Hank McCoy is so great. Like he has this great, like innocent, nerdy scientist guy quality to his acting. Very like in his shell, and his chemistry with Lawrence is great in like bringing some confidence to his character. I think they're great together as well.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, kind of.
Which Nicholas Hoult is jumping the fence and going to be one of the most iconic DC villains of all time, which I think he's going to just nail.
Yeah, I am so looking forward to Superman Legacy. I feel like it's been a while since we've had, well, for me, a really, really long while since we've had a good Superman film. I'm not the biggest fan of Man of Steel, frankly.
Which is fair.
But in James Gunn, I definitely trust. There was a lot of talk that like Nicholas Hoult could be an amazing Clark Kent. Like I could definitely see that. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of his, and I think he'll smash it out of the park for playing Lex Luthor, definitely. Such a good actor now. I mean, we know he looks great bold from Mad Max Fury Road, so...
Yeah, I think he's going to do a great job. And you're right, I think it will be 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years sent between Superman films.
Yeah, fucking hell. That's a long distance.
Yeah, I think it's well overdue, and just on paper alone, I think he's going to do a lot better than Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's really irritating, that actor. I'm not a big fan. Great in Social Network, because he's supposed to be really annoying in that, which we have covered a few episodes ago.
Yeah, but not as Lex Luthor.
Leigh, favourite performance for you for X-Men First Class?
I'm not going to pick Michael Fassbender because I did that for Prometheus. And you
can if you want.
I'd have to say I'll go with James McAvoy's performance as earlier Charles, because when you're watching it, you don't you're so far away from this cool, collected teacher and mentor. You're so far away, and I think he was able to really distance himself from Patrick Stewart's performance, but also show hints of like the character that he will become, and all the conversation scenes between him and Michael Fassbender. It's such a flip of a coin. You're like, yeah, honor. Yeah, nah. Like, whose side do you choose?
Yeah, definitely. Acting score then for me for X-Men First Class, again, like Prometheus. I think it's definitely the strongest element of the film. So I'll go an 8.5 for me.
I was really going to say 8.2.
Cool. Right, let's add up the scores then for X-Men First Class. I think I'm pretty confident that it's going to win again.
Yeah, it's funny. Looking back on this, it's hard to believe what was going to come next. Like, from this movie, we get one of the best comic book movies of all time.
And then one of the worst ones.
Yeah.
And then even worse than that.
Even worse again.
I haven't even seen the fourth one because everyone said it was so bad. I'm like, I'm not wasting my time with that.
Neither have I. I didn't watch it either.
Literally can't even remember what it's called.
Dark Phoenix.
Ah, there you go. So memorable, that film.
I know. Even when they did it the first time.
Yeah. It is such a shame, though, that they can't get the Dark Phoenix storyline right. Like, they've had 2 goes at it now, and it's been bad, and it's just like, oh, come on. This is like one of the most iconic, like, X-Men storylines there is.
And you butchered it twice.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. Hopefully Marvel might go in that direction. Who knows? One day.
Yeah.
The MCU, rather.
And I think the MCU would do a lot better.
Yeah. Right. X-Men First Class gets 40. That can't be right. Let me do that again.
Was it Prometheus more?
Yeah. X-Men First Class gets 47 point.
Yes.
7. That's more like it.
That's about right.
Got me abacus wrong again.
I just loved your face. 40.
That ain't right. There's no way it's losing to Prometheus.
No.
Prometheus only gets 43.2, whereas X-Men First Class gets 47.7. Again, I don't think it's going to be close to our top 10 for our last episode, so that's not changing for this year. Next episode, we are taking a bit of a break. I mean, I haven't booked this one yet for a guest appearance, but maybe we'll be talking an episode around The Beekeeper that will be out early January. So we'll either do Jason Statham films or David Ayer films. So that might happen. I'm not sure. But if it doesn't, I'll do a rewind episode, and then the next episode will be later in January, and it will be anime films because they're re-releasing Cowboy Bebop in cinemas. So we'll be having a look at anime films.
Oh. Well, I think there's actually meant to be a new Suicide Squad movie too that's anime.
Oh, cool. That'd be exciting.
Yeah, I saw pictures of it the other day. So
I mean, and I think they're doing like a John Wick, maybe a TV show in an anime style as well. That looks cool. Great announcement there.
I'm like, yes, 100% yes.
Yeah. I feel like anime definitely is becoming a lot more popular in the Western world now, which is great to see. I'm watching like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I know Scott Pilgrim Takes Off on Netflix. That's pretty cool.
Which looks good. I've been meaning to watch that. If you go back, I think it's 2010 or 2009. Marvel did try this thing where they released an Iron Man movie and a Wolverine movie in anime.
Oh, okay.
And Iron Man looks just sleek as all hell in that style.
Awesome.
Wolverine. Yeah.
Leigh, you have been amazing. Thank you so much again for coming on. I know it's very early there for you.
That's right.
This is your opportunity again to tell us about your podcast and where can we find you?
Well, my podcast is called Lights, Camera, Rant. We talk about the latest in movies, TV shows, and video games. And you can find us on all major social media platforms. New episodes drop every Tuesday. We go live every Sunday where we're ranting, raving, reviewing about all the latest in pop culture.
Awesome. Right, it's time to say goodbye, guys. I know it's very sad for... Unfortunately, I can't give you a tissue. But it's goodbye from Leigh. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Thank you for having me, as always.
No problem. And it's goodbye from me. I'm going to watch X-Men films tonight, I think. Starting with X-Men 2, because it's fucking awesome. Bye-bye.
I was about to say 2.
That's it for part 2. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 1 if you haven't done so already. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.